Show me your moves.
And welcome to another episode of Geeklife Live, your source for all the nerdy news you need to know. If you're new to the show, we are a 2-hour mashup of all the pop culture news you know and love. We talk about video games, movies, TVs, comics, and anything else that will ensure you cling to our content like a fly on Mike Pence's head. I am your host, The Dodd, the streamer this podcast needs, but certainly not the one it deserves. And joining me today is a man who is here to seize and redistribute your attention. Comrade Kevin joins the fray. How are you doing today, Kevin?
I'm doing great. Dad.
Good. And also, returning to us after escaping from the pit in Blather's basement, Bronwyn the Warrior Princess joins us today as well. How are you doing today, Bron?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful, Dodd. Thank you.
Good to have you guys. So, how have you guys been surviving the apocalypse? What's the latest binge been? Did you guys catch the season finale of The Boys yet?
I have not. I've actually been away from all media for a week, traveling through Oregon and climbing and camping and doing all that. I actually climbed up a spot called Mordor, so that's what I've been up to.
Oh, wow. You're literally climbing Mordor.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that seems relevant. That seems pretty relevant.
Yeah.
What about you, Kevin?
Flames and mountains. Yeah. Well, no, I'm not caught up on The Boys quite yet. Actually been catching up on Lovecraft and just playing some Among Us. That's pretty much it. And trying to stay healthy.
Nice. Well, Lovecraft Country's definitely been a fun one. I've been keeping up with that one as well. A fun one. I don't know if that's the right word. It's been an eye opener. It's been a very, very interesting series, and I love the direction that HBO has taken with it. I love these kind of really interesting, not just good content like story wise, but relevant content. Anyways, I know that my face is frozen on here, but if you guys could still hear me, we're going to continue moving through here. Before we get started, I want a quick reminder. If you like what you see or hear on the show tonight, feel free to follow us here at Geek Life Live or on any of our social medias. We're on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. Reddit's coming soon. I mean, I can't think of any other social medias that we have out there. But we also have personal social medias that you can follow us for additional content. You can find me at Rusbane, WRUSE_BANE. It's the first time I've tripped up after spelling it out. Kev, where can they find you?
Kevin Todd Jr. for everything, pretty much. And if you want to play anything, totally awesome on Xbox.
There you go. And Braun, where can they find you?
You can find me at Space Nymph here on Twitch and also on Instagram.
All right, perfect. Well, we've got a great show for you planned for you guys today. Braun, hit us with that rundown.
Take your Regeneron because live from our houses, it's Geek Life Live. What? No awesome sax solo? Anyway, if you couldn't tell by the cold open, the first bit of news in TV, SNL is back. Even through brightest day and darkest night, HBO is giving The Lantern the green light, and MODOK took over Hulu. Next, COVID isn't the only thing plaguing the movie industry right now. Will zombie movies ever die? At least we will have Ryan Reynolds and some Free Guide news with that name drop. And dinosaurs get COVID again. Then we got video game news, and it isn't just Among Us memes. Fall Guys is still a thing, and it just got a new season. Almost. Cyberpunk gets Hackermanned. MK gets yet another 80s action star added to their roster. Plus, Facebook bans the wrong kind of militia group, and there could be fallout. Finally, as always, we'll dive deep in this week's deep dive. Is pay to play here to stay? And our top Zen virtual goods and bads. Dodd, start us off with what's going on in the world of TV this week.
Yes, SNL is back. And I'm back to moving again. SNL is back. SNL returned last week with host Chris Rock and Megan Thee Stallion. They came out this week. Just the last episode, their host was Bill Burr and Jack White. And that was not the original lineup, though. And that's kind of the story of this week. They had to pull a replacement for their musician because the music talent had been breaking COVID violations in none other than our college town of Tuscaloosa, Alabama. That's right. He was seen on, I believe it was TikTok and Snapchat, and I believe shared some of his Instagram stories of him partying in downtown Tuscaloosa after not this week's game, but last week's game. And a lot of people were furious. This was Morgan Wallen, by the way. It was the music talent. And SNL wasn't having it. They replaced him with Jack White. And honestly, it was a fantastic show. Jack White absolutely killed it as far as a replacement for that. I'd have never heard of Morgan Wallen, but I know Jack White, and I'm super glad we got Jack White instead of him, especially if he's going to be flaunting around COVID violations and not taking it seriously. I mean, you have a chance as a musician to perform on SNL. Why wouldn't you take that? In other SNL-related news, request for Jeff Goldblum to star in this week's episode was on the rise after The Fly on Mike Pence's head made its star debut during the vice presidential debate. And SNL was able to kind of tie this in, but they didn't. Obviously, Jeff Goldblum didn't take the bait, but they did get Jim Carrey to go up there and do a very, very good Jeff Goldblum impression. So we got a little bit of that. So it was really, really fun. Definitely an episode that I'd highly recommend anybody check out if you're an SNL fan. But Braun, you and I, we both went to college in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Is there any party in T-Town that would be worth losing a spot as a musical guest on SNL?
Not quite, but I can understand how it would happen.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine any bar in downtown Tuscaloosa and going to one of those for a night and having one of the experiences that I had in college would be worth throwing away an opportunity to perform on SNL. I mean, geez, talk about blowing an opportunity. There
are some opportunities I've blown just by partying too hard at the bars in Tuscaloosa, but nothing quite as big as an SNL performance.
That's true. But hey, Jack White absolutely killed it, and SNL has been doing really, really well. As far as musical performances go, they have nothing on Megan Thee Stallion in the first week. Absolutely, like if you get a chance to go back through and watch that, she fucking killed it, and she delivered some political messages that were. She did not mince words, let's put it that way, and really like what she's putting out there. I really like the stances she's making. But speaking of things that I'm really excited to see, and something I've been wanting for a long time, a Green Lantern series is finally in the works for a TV project, and HBO is taking it. I couldn't think of a better property to be able to handle this. Kevin, tell us a little bit more about what's going on with Green Lantern on HBO.
That's right, Dad. This isn't your dad's CGI Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern suit. The DC Comics multiverse is set to get a shot of willpower from the Fame Guardians universe when the Green Lantern premieres on HBO Max. Green Lantern will explore the history of the different heroes who joined the Corps with executive producer Greg Berlanti. A lot of people from the Arrowverse will know that name. He's teaming up with showrunner Seth Garhame-Smith to tell stories of heroes like Alan Scott, Kilowog, Guy Gardner, Jessica Cruz, Simon Biles, and many more in a brand new live-action series. While there's no word yet on if the show will be set in the continuity of Zack Snyder's Justice League universe or exist as a separate entity, DC and HBO Max have made it clear that these are the lines that can be blurred and explored in the future. What do you guys think of that? Are you kind of stoked like I am? Are you? I could use some more Arrowverse, and I definitely could use some Green Lantern content.
Yeah, I could use some good Green Lantern content.
For real. I mean,
yeah.
I think Green Lantern as a property just has so much potential. There's an amazing, cool, sci-fi adventure. You can go any direction with Green Lantern. You could make Green Lantern a superhero Star Trek if you wanted to, and the fact that it's just the powers are so much based on them being basically chosen by the Green Lantern Corps kind of means that anybody can become a Green Lantern. There's just so much storytelling potential in these IPs, and yes, we know Ryan Reynolds fucked it up the first time, but I'm so glad that HBO is giving it a chance and that finally enough time has passed that we can hopefully let this property kind of come back in a big way. I'm excited to see it. I don't know about y'all.
And I think there's some tie-ins to the Arrowverse. The fact that Greg Berlanti is on it, but also I don't know if you guys watched the series finale of Arrow. There was kind of an Easter egg in there with John Diggle holding what appeared to be a green ring. They didn't show it, but he found a box and it's glowing green, yada yada yada, and there's some sort of speculation around that. Maybe a tie in there.
Throughout the Arrowverse, they've kind of also hinted that his name might not actually be Diggle and that it may be Stewart. Right. And in some other parallel universes, and then in some universes when he's recognized by other characters, they go, well, where's your ring? And so in some CW verse, there is a John Stewart that looks like John Diggle out there. So and it's interesting because John Diggle is not mentioned in the HBO series as one of the characters that they're bringing in. So that it is kind of interesting to see what they will do with John Stewart in this property, or if they'll do anything at all, or if that means that the fact that he's not on the list means that they're going to be doing something for him in Arrow.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So interesting stuff.
I'm excited either way.
I'm super excited to see what happens. I mean, HBO doing it. I mean, you need a big budget for something like Green Lantern to do it right and to get all the cool aliens and environments and things like that. I think HBO is the perfect home for this one. But speaking of places that I think have really found their perfect home, Marvel's MODOK, a new series for Hulu, has been revealed one of its first looks. Brahman, you have a little bit more on this story. Tell us a little bit more about what's going on with MODOK.
Yeah, Marvel's MODOK, which stands for Mental Mobile Mechanized Organism Designed Only for Killing, is getting his own series on Hulu. This series follows MODOK as he tries to live his best life, from mundane tasks to family matters outside of his villainous work. The stop-motion animation, much in the similar style to like Robot Chicken, further accentuates this ridiculous juxtaposition of the over-the-top character design, putting that and setting it into seemingly normal situations of this villain just trying to kind of live his life and display these more generic tasks and scenarios. So, Don, I know you got a chance to check out a few clips. Any first thoughts on this new series?
I am super stoked for it. It has a lot of Robot Chicken vibes, in my opinion, and it's stop motion, which is very unique for you've just never seen a series like this before, and the what we have in the content window is not too different from what the actual series looks like, and MODOK is the kind of story that they plan on telling is a slice of life kind of story for MODOK, which I think MODOK is a great character for that zany slice of life kind of thing. Like imagining MODOK going home to a wife and kids, it seems like that there's plenty of storytelling elements that you could have there, and you could make kind of like an American Dad-esque comedy out of just that. So I'm excited to see where it goes, and they've got great writers on it. Patton Oswalt, great, incredible writer, incredible voice talent. So I'm super excited to see more about this series. Kev, have you heard anything about MODOK? Are you excited at all for Patton Oswalt-led series like this?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's going to be it looks very creative. And like I said, it's something kind of different, especially considering it's as far as Marvel IPs are concerned. But the Patton Oswalt, hired, I think that's going to make it really good because I'm pretty much a fan of just about anything he does. He's a great writer and, like you said, a great voice talent as well.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Well, that's all we got for the TV section this time. But we've got tons to talk about in the movie section, so let's get right into it.
Yeah.
Starting off with the fact that they're doing, yet again, another Resident Evil movie. Tell us a little bit about this Resident Evil movie that they have in the works, Kev.
Yeah, it's back, or it's coming back. While the most recent Resident Evil movie series ended in 2017, the final chapter, still planning to come for the long-running zombie action franchise. Last month, it was reported that there are 2 Resident Evil shows in development for Netflix. There's also a movie reboot in the works, too. The first cast members from the film haven't been revealed, as well as some details about what to expect. One will be live action, the other will be a CG animated series. The live action series will be based not on any of the games, but will focus on 14-year-old sisters Jade and Billy Wesker and daughters of Albert Wesker, who are living in a place called New Raccoon City.
There you go.
Yeah. Are you guys burnt out on Resident Evil, or does this kind of pique your interest?
It's interesting because this looks like this is the CW cast for a Resident Evil movie.
Yeah.
You've got 2 CW stars on here, and you've got the guy from the Umbrella Academy here. It's a full reboot, so they're trying to go with a completely different approach. I will be honest with you, the Resident Evil games were something that never really caught too much of my attention, but I mean, I've met Robbie Amell personally once before at a bar, so I'm interested automatically because of that. That's just a funny anecdotal story. One time at DragonCon. But and I've seen I don't know who the guy I can't remember his name, but the other character from the CW verse who played Damien Dark and Arrow.
Yeah. Named you. I know you're talking about that. Yeah.
But he's was a fantastic actor, and also the guy from Umbrella Academy being in there. I've already got there's some interesting actors in there that I would be interested just to check out the series just because they're in it. But outside of that, no, that's not really. I don't know if this is anything that's really hooking me in just yet. What about you, Bronwyn?
So I'm a little bit burnt out on zombies, but having that Resident Evil attached to it gets me excited because I was a huge fan of the games. I really like the story and just getting into the Umbrella, like all that sort of lore and information. So I'm excited. I'm excited for this zombie movie. If it was some other zombie thing coming out, I might not pay attention to it. But yeah, give me some Resident Evil. I was just actually thinking about starting up some of those multiplayer Resident Evil games again because it's just so much fun to play with your friends and team up and
Yeah. Well, who knows? Maybe it'll end up being a little bit better than some of the previous Resident Evil movies that have come out.
The first 2 were okay, but they really started to jump the shark after a while, beating the dead horse or whatever analogy you want to use there.
Yeah, beating the dead reanimated corpse.
Zombie. There you go.
Free Guy's trailer launched as well, which gave us a lot more into the story than I think we're ever really intended to do. But hey, COVID's backed the release date up on this, and they've got to do something to keep their content relevant. Bronwyn, you got a little bit more details about the story. Tell us a bit about the Free Guy trailer launch.
Yeah, well, Free Guy is what happens when an NPC becomes self-aware and starts becoming the game's hero. They have their sights set on an ambitious December 11th release date with this film starring Ryan Reynolds, although we'll see how that fares closer to the holidays. It's been pushed back a while already, and if this movie is something worth people rushing into theaters over, I'm not sure. Or maybe they're going to opt for that video on demand option. But the film is jam-packed. As I mentioned, Ryan Reynolds is at the helm. Taika Waititi is playing a titular role, as well as Killing Eve star Jodie Comer. So this movie is full of not only this incredible cast, but I think that the whole concept for the film is something it has me excited. I mean,
yeah, it does seem like something that's really, really out there.
Yeah, out there, nerdy. be able to pull some different cool game tropes into it, and I'm excited for it. I don't think I'll be knocking down the movie theater door, but I will see it
Yeah, well,
eventually.
I'll figure out a way to see it. But I think that it is an interesting concept to see explored. And of course, you got Ryan Reynolds there. So I'm super excited about it. Kev, how do you feel about the Free Guys trailer? Did you get a chance to check it out?
Yeah, I did. I'm pretty. I saw it a few months back, and I'm pretty excited. Like I said, it's different. I'm surprised it took them this long to come up with this content because I've always thought about that. Especially if you've ever played sandbox games like GTA or Assassin's Creed, you're like, oh man, what's it like being this guy who just sort of or girl who just respawns in his world night in, day out, or whatever, and just is tortured by whoever the asshole is behind the controller. Are they self-aware? It kind of gets in a way. I wonder if they're going to cleverly go into like the existential ideas of consciousness and being self-aware. What differentiates you from being human, et cetera, et cetera. Does this unit have a soul, if you will? But yeah, I'm pretty excited. I think I always love comedy mixed with existential dread. It's kind of my sweet spot.
I am excited for it as well. I also just seeing the title of this film, Free Guy, and then I immediately started thinking of Fall Guys, and I was like, oh wait, is there a Fall Guys movie coming out?
You never know.
That would be awesome.
Maybe they'll become self-aware.
Yeah. In a way, capitalism's like, but I digress.
Capitalism's the winner in the end,
Right. The rat race, if you will.
Well, speaking of capitalism losing, though, Warner Brothers has had to do a massive pushback on a ton of different dates due to COVID. Due to this, we won't be seeing Rob Pat the Bat until 2022. Dune was also pushed back, which actually moved into the slot that was previously occupied by Robert Pattinson's Batman, which is going to be coming in on October 2021. Originally, it was set to come out in December of this year. The Matrix franchise, though, has been bumped up from a release date of April 1st, 2022 to December 22nd, 2021. So it's about 3 or 4 months up for The Matrix to kind of fill that slot. I'm not quite sure if that's because they probably got all their filming already done and, they're just working on maybe CGI and stuff like that and maybe can fill that slot. Maybe they can do all that remotely. I don't know. I don't know how The Matrix is able to move up their time slot, but nevertheless, they've moved it up to December 2021. But some movies like Black Adam and Minecraft have been pushed off the release slate altogether. I don't think that this means that these movies aren't coming out, especially because Black Adam is still making casting calls. They cast ISIS on the 8th of this week, so just that's like I think Wednesday or so. But Sarah Shahai, I believe, would be playing Isis in the Black Adam series. She was a very important character to the series. So if they're still doing casting for it, and they've still done plenty of promotion with it, I don't think they're going to be abandoning this property anytime soon. But they don't have a release date for right now. It looks like, though, the Bat Crew has finally learned their COVID lesson and are planning to kind of wait the rest of this out. How does this compare to their quarantine buddies Jurassic World, though, Bronwyn?
Well, they're not learning their lesson quite yet. Maybe they'll fall soon behind, but Jurassic World gets COVID yet again. Jurassic World Dominion puts pause on production after multiple crew members test positive for coronavirus. A few weeks ago, I touched a little bit on their rigorous measures that have been taken just to adhere to throughout filming and the millions of dollars they've spent just on testing alone. But even that wasn't enough to stop the virus. The affected crew members have since tested negative. However, they are still halting production for 2 weeks as a safety precaution. As one of the first major films back, this is really setting the precedent of how filmmaking looks during the pandemic. While Jurassic World has money to burn, I can see this deterring other companies from wanting to produce bigger pictures. Maybe we're even going to see a shift into the indie realm, more animation, other forms of media. I don't know. What do you think about this, Kevin? How do you see this sort of affecting or setting a precedent on future productions?
I mean, something's gonna have to give here. You just keep seeing it over and over again, more production's being halted, and then I think we'll start seeing more drastic changes and more, I guess, better precautions and better safety measures taking place once it really starts hitting the pockets of, say, the executive producers with all these delays. And we already know the cinema industry is already in shambles with AMC closing, so. Something's like I said, something's gonna have to give here, and quote Jeff Goldblum, life finds a way. I guess that's applicable here. Maybe the virus finds a way somehow. I don't know, but
yeah, what a movie
managed to bring the Jurassic Park quote in there. Wow, I'm impressed. That was good. That was impressive.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's something. Something they got to figure out something because eventually they're just never going to be able to get these movies out on time, or people are just going to lose interest per se.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
exactly. Well, we'll continue to cover that story as it unfolds, as we have the Ballad of Jurassic World and the Batman trying to film in COVID continues. But we talked a little bit about Free Guys earlier. Now we are actually talking about Fall Guys. Fall Guys Season 2 launched after a brief delay. How brief, we'll get into in a bit, I guess. Kevin, you got a little bit more on this story. Tell us a little bit about what's going on with Fall Guys Season 2.
Yeah, well, Season 2 came out at 8 a.m. on the 8th, so this past Thursday. It's medieval themed, so knights, witches, castles, pretty sure some dragons maybe are all up in there. And Mediatonic has confirmed that any purchases, customizable items, anything that you bought in the previous season will also carry over. The size of this update, as a lot of people are painfully aware of these days, is nowhere near the Call of Duty Modern Warfare space or sizes, so that's great. Good. It's good to be. So yeah, it's just just more content, more skins, a bunch of fun little Easter eggs here and there. There's also, I think, there's some new they call it wall guides, a stage where players must move with giant boxes in order to scale the wall of the fortress. So a couple little items, I guess, to keep the hype going and really keep this game alive too, which I'm pretty excited for. I love Fall Guys. How about you?
Yeah, I do. I love seeing new stuff in Fall Guys, and I think it'll give me a good reason to play it. They struggled to get this update out for a couple of days. I believe it was supposed to come out on like Monday or something like that, and then it got backed up by a couple of days. Was that just COVID problems, or did you look into that at all? Or
yeah, most of it was COVID problems, has been the case for many things, delays, just, production on things that's kind of halted at like 50 to 25% across, just the industry in general. So you can kind of not just expect delays from Fall Guys, but pretty much any sort of content or patch or update related things going forward for just about anything.
Now, my question to you, Kevin, is this update enough to bring Fall Guys back into the spot that it had before Among Us jumped into the popularity scene with the streamers? Are we going to start seeing Fall Guys take that spot again, or is that a little sus to you?
I think it is. I think it is a little sus. I think they are in a little bit of danger because keep in mind, Among Us is a 2-year-old game, and this really kind of took a lot of shine and spotlight from Fall Guys, especially what Fall Guys debuted 2 months ago, and Among Us is really kind of just the I guess in the spotlight right now. So I think, and as Among Us, the developers have mentioned that they've really kind of scrapped Among Us 2 and really going to keep that content as updates for current game right now. So Fall Guys really has to, for me, I think their solution needs to be maybe go to mobile and probably try to work a deal with Microsoft and get on Xbox as well, because Among Us, anybody can really play from anywhere, and apparently there's rumors, or I won't even call them rumors, they're actual, I guess, sort of news breaking that Among Us will ultimately end up on Xbox and PS4 ports. So.
Oh, there we go. Well,
yeah.
Interesting. We'll see how that unfolds in the ongoing war between those two for most popular fad game. Is it a fad game?
Yeah.
Is that what we would call it?
I'd say fad games. I'm sure they wouldn't like that, but yeah, I think you can call them that. I think the thing that Fall Guys has, I guess, somewhat of an advantage is, their game. They can kind of I don't know how Among Us changes their game. You know, like it's kind of I'm not sure what they could add to make the game different. I mean, I don't know. I've heard like if you read on Reddit or stuff, there's different game modes that you can kind of play to like sort of implement. There's actually like a Dead by Daylight style game that we played once. It's like so these aren't like actual sanctioned rules within the game itself. These are things that the community has created. So I'm wondering if those developers will take that integrated into the game itself. But yeah, I'd say they're fad games just because they're they have a sort of they don't really have a high ceiling, so to speak, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, whatever you call them, whatever kind of games they are, they're really just buying us time until Cyberpunk 2077 comes out. So, and speaking of Cyberpunk 2077, there were some map leaks that happened with Cyberpunk 2077. Brahman, you have a little bit more about this. Tell us a bit what's going on with this game that all of us are really, really simping over right now. I can't wait for this game to come out.
Oh my gosh, me neither. The hype for this game is so real right now. And with the recent leak of the game's map, I am just even more eager to lose myself in this open world cyber adventure. If you don't know about Cyberpunk 2077, the game description reads a little something like this. Set in Night City, a Megaopolis, that's it.
Megaopolis.
Megaopolis, obsessed with power, glamour, and body modification. You play as V, a mercenary outlaw going after a one-of-a-kind implant that is the key to immortality. You can customize your character's cyberware, skill set, and playstyle, and explore a vast city where the choices you make shape the story and the world around you. The leaked map revealed that you will not only be confined to the limits of Night City, but we'll also be able to access the outskirts called the Badlands, and those areas are explorable as well. The game developer CD Projekt Red has not commented on the latest leak, but you'll be able to verify its validity soon as the game is set to release on November 19th on the PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, and PC.
All we got to do, guys, is get through this fucking election so that we can play Cyberpunk and world peace. Like, we'll be all set. Like, that will fix everything, right?
I know,
we'll all just be
right?
stuck in front of our fucking TVs playing Cyberpunk. You know, we won't have to worry about the rise of fascists, right? Come on. I can just will it into be, and just all right. I'm super excited about this.
Me too.
Yeah, same. I've been sort of like starving for RPG, especially single player focused RPG for so long. And, this is right in my wheelhouse, right in like sort of my favorite types of game to play.
And like a fun hacker game that isn't Watch Dogs, where I'm just literally pressing buttons and watching tankers explode. Like, I don't get Watch Dogs, man. I don't know why people are so into it, but like, it's just like crappy GTA to me. I don't know. But that's just me. I'm hoping that Cyberpunk delivers something a lot different, and I think that it will, just from what I've seen with it. But super duper excited to see this game.
CD Projekt Red has had some bangers in the past too, so they never really drop anything that's pretty shitty.
That's true. Well, speaking of new content wrapped in 80s nostalgia, Mortal Kombat is getting some new characters, including Rambo, voiced by none other than Sylvester Stallone. He's also joined by fan favorite Melina and Rain in the Mortal Kombat Pack 2. This adds Rambo to the current mix of 80s characters that includes RoboCop, Terminator, and missing one. I think RoboCop and Terminator are the ones for this one. RoboCop, Terminator, and Rambo. Because Spawn's the other guest villain or guest character. But anyways, fan favorite Melina is back as well. But the kind of question remains is why was she even DLC in the first place? We're kind of talking about a staple Mortal Kombat character here, right? You don't put fucking Scorpion as DLC content unless you're Injustice. Which that was that was a bad deal. What do you guys do in the realm? Anyways, Kev is making a Melina DLC. This especially DLC that comes out this late in the game. A pro or a con for Mortal Kombat fans? Is it good to have her, or is it kind of like, hey, you're just selling us stuff that should have been in there in the first place?
I think it's both. I think people who really love the game are going to get it. They're going to complain and bitch about it, but they'll still get it. Yeah, Melina's certainly a staple of the franchise. I don't know how she's not in it. You know, yeah, you had Katana, and it just doesn't make sense to me. I guess it's like maybe they see it. She's so essential that people are going to buy her. I mean, I'm hoping that's not their mindset because that's kind of shitty. But yeah, even Rain, I'm actually pretty excited for Rain. He's always been kind of like
I could see Rain as a DLC character.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
Like I could see being
that,
like
that was kind of egregious.
Yeah.
So I think I think packaging that with Rambo's kind of was pretty smart with them, right? It's like here's someone who's not really in this universe, who's just but who's known for gratuitous violence. Oh yeah, we didn't forget Melina. Here she is with Rambo as well. So
yeah, and voiced by Sylvester Stallone. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. Well, we got a lot more news to cover, including what's going on in our other section. And we have some other news this time, starting off with a really weird story here. We know that Facebook has a penchant for banning weird things and also conveniently missing stuff that happens to be laced with white supremacy. But in this time, they actually banned the wrong militia group, a Fallout militia group. Kev, you got the details on this story. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on with this?
Right. So Facebook accidentally banned a Fallout 76 role-playing militia group. So I'll give you a backstory. In September, Facebook broke down its latest steps to keep Facebook groups safe in a lengthy blog post that include a recap of prior efforts to curtail groups that promote violence. It's not known exactly what caused the group to be banned, but some combination of the word militia and the role-playing commitment of its members obviously resulted in a false positive. Facebook spokesperson apologized for the mix-up and suggested that in a statement to Kotaku that an automation error was to blame. They went on to say that we have both AI that detects these groups as well as 15,000 human content reviewers, but occasionally groups are removed in error. The rep said if we detect a group is connected to a dangerous organization, we may remove the group and associated admin profiles are disabled. Ironically, there's still plenty of Facebook groups claiming to represent real-life militias, including the SW Missouri Militia, Michigan Rising, Michigan Whitetail Militia, and the Southern Texas State Militia continue to operate on Facebook. So
Jesus.
It sounds like Facebook has to fine-tune their algorithms and content review, doesn't it, Brian?
Yes, sorry, I had a little chair misfunction, so
No problem.
got distracted.
Yeah, it definitely seems like Facebook needs to adjust their algorithms after,
You got the wrong guy.
I'm back. I'm back.
You got the wrong guys. You got the but hell, the flag though, as you can see in the main picture there, it does look like some kind of Blue Lives Matter bullshit though.
Yeah, and that's where I'm kind of torn, because it's like, even though they're not a real militia group, it's like they could. I mean, I'm not familiar with them or anything, but I'm not sure what their militia is about. Like what their culture. So I'm not sure. I mean, they obviously said something that flagged them as a militia group. Granted, even though if it wasn't real or not, there's still some. I don't think they're fully. I think there's some culpability for them, not necessarily Facebook for the militia group. So, militia group.
The militia. Yeah. Robin, what do you think about this?
Just a fake militia group. Yeah.
Right.
I think that it just kind of is ironic, just considering that Facebook lets so much go under the radar, and even it feels like sometimes they'll like support these groups, and it's like, oh, this is when you're like cracking the whip, when it's going into the fact that this is for a video game. Like that's when you that's when you are gonna take this seriously, when there's a lot they could be doing on the other hand to keep communities positive and safe. And just I think it just shows their like comically kind of buffoons.
Yeah, if they have humans running this, then they definitely have some pretty inept humans running it. But it seems a lot to me. In many circumstances like this, a lot of people sit there and go, "I think this is This is something caught by an algorithm, and the algorithm is wrong.
Right.
And I think that this clearly shows that Facebook needs to adjust their algorithm because, again, as we were saying earlier, they've got plenty of instances of white supremacy that are flying under their radar, and this getting caught in the fishnet is a little bit disappointing, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. That's what feels disappointing for sure.
Right.
Yep. Well, in other news, Razer has made a credit card for gamers, and of course, it has LED lights. Robin, tell us a little bit about this credit card for gamers.
Yeah, so Razer, as you said, made a card for gamers, so naturally it lights up. Having their logo lit up when making a purchase is a feature only offered in their premium card. However, this card offers 1% back on select purchases, but when used in Razer's online store, you get 5% back. So they're really just trying to give you an incentive to use their platform for shopping and whatnot. They also offer video game-like incentives to make purchases where users go through a personalized experience to track, score, and redeem rewards based on tasks and everyday transactions. Right now, the beta for this is only being offered to a select group in Singapore, so feign your excitement for now, for just a moment, and maybe one day you'll be able to get the LED glowing card.
Of course, they have LED cards for gamers, right? If they want to market it to gamers, put a blinking LED card, and then you get a cling little Pavlovian dog reward for every time you make capitalist daddy happy.
Yeah, and like having these like incentives to buy or these sort of like checkpoints that you reach for like making purchases, kind of like a progression of a video game, that seems messed up to me. Like,
Yeah.
further rewarding you, like, oh, if I do this today, then I reach the gold star for my this for food. I don't know, whatever, however it's gonna be. This is just ridiculous.
Finally get to earn literal points for the game of capitalism.
Mm-hmm. It'll glow.
That's true. That's true. I'm not gonna lie. Like it has me like geeking out a little bit. I'm not gonna get it. Not because my credit's not good enough, but because it seems kind of gimmicky. One thing I am a little worried about, like, is it just that one green color? Or is it going to be like Apple, where like each color represents a certain transaction, and everyone can see that 75% of my purchases are for food?
Or something,
Yeah.
Or it's like blinks red when it gets declined or something like that.
God. Oh my
God! Embarrassing. Yeah.
Right. That'd be
the thing that I would freak me out is if it's like sitting on my counter. And like I buy something on, the virtual store or whatever like that, and then it glows. That would freak me out. I'd be like, like.
I want it to glow all the time, though. Like if it's gonna glow, just be constantly glowing.
Mm-hmm. And while we're at it, why not just go ahead and make it a Triforce?
Yeah, right.
All right, Braun. Well, I think with that we're going to take a short 10 guys. But we want to remind y'all, if you want to be up to date on all the info and all the nerdy news you need to know, be sure to follow us here on Twitch. Be sure those notifications are on, or follow us on any of our other social medias, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, all that good stuff. And with that, we're going to kick it off to a break, and we'll see you guys in 10.
What is going on, YouTube? It's your boy Stan, aka Baydrive, bringing you guys another Leaks and Rumors video. I really like making them. You guys really like watching them, mostly because I can't be wrong about them because they're unverified rumors. With that said, I do have some unverifiable rumors that I got off the back pages of the dark web, posted by somebody with Ben Affleck as their profile picture. So it's totally legit info, guys. Totally not clickbait. But what are these rumors about, you might ask? That's right. Diamond and Pearl remakes, the one thing everybody's losing their minds about right now. But before we get into that, a word from our sponsor G Fuel. G Fuel, the only energy supplement whose marketing tactic is based off crushing the dreams of small-time streamers with big egos. They have this new flavor out. It's a little bit bitter if I'm going to be honest, but it's called You'll Never Make This Into a Full-Time Career, I think. Yeah. Use promo code BAYDRIVE and get a free bottle of tequila with that to wipe down that depressive aftertaste. All right, with that out of the way, let's get into it. Tom Cruise Lover 6969 Nice on 4chan states that he is the super secret king of Nintendo's super secret underground base where they do all of their Pokemon planning under the dark cover of night. He has leaked the latest info onto the dark web, and some of the info does seem a bit odd, but again, unverifiable rumors, so let's digest it into detail. First off, Diamond and Pearl remakes will hit stores on Black Friday for $5. That's right, this Black Friday for $5. Every Pokemon from every generation dating all the way back to Kanto will be available. Every Pokemon will also get a Mega Evolution. And Dynamax will be returning. And every Pokemon will get a Gigantamax form. And you'll be able to not only Mega Evolve and Dynamax, but you'll be able to do both at the same time in a new mechanic called Digivolving. And the resulting Pokemon will be called a Digimon. Seems a little derivative, but I don't know, I'm excited about it. You'll also be able to have your Pokemon do small tasks for you, like walk around right next to you, fetch you a glass of water, stroke your hair while you sleep at night. And the last rumor is a little bit weird, I'm not gonna lie. So last one is that Pikachu gets a Glock 9. I'm not quite sure about that one, but you know, hashtag Pokemon Gun confirmed. Anyways, that'll do it for this episode of Leaks and Rumors video. If you liked anything that you saw, please be sure to like and subscribe. Offer your firstborn child as tribute to one of my Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, any of those social media pages. That'll do it for this episode, guys. I'll see you.
And now, a message from Captain America.
Hi kids, I'm Captain America. And today, I'm here to remind you that the word Antifa means anti-fascist. And being anti-fascist means punching Nazis in the f***ing face. And do you know who loves punching Nazis in the f***ing face? That's right, this guy. So, unless you think I'm a terrorist, you should stop calling Antifa one. I honestly can't believe I'm having to explain this to you, but here we are. Go vote.
Okay. I don't know what that was. Anyways, welcome back to Geek Life. We are talking about our deep dive now. We're moving into free to play. So free to play games are no longer a thing of fantasy. Back in the early days of gaming, the only free to play games that you could access were crappy online games that you would play on Flash Player, but times have changed. Games like Warframe, League of Legends, Fortnite, Rocket League all work entirely off a free-to-play model. In fact, over the past 10 to 12 years, games have revolutionized the way they make money off you. With pay-to-play, pay-to-win, loot boxes, microtransactions, and other nuanced ways to profit off gamers on the rise, we thought we would spend some time this deep dive discussing the implications of it. Tonight, we're going to talk about my two favorite conversation topics, video games and why capitalism sucks. So first off, let's start off with some definitions. First off, Kev, what is pay to play and what is pay to win? And what's the differences between them?
Well, pay to play is essentially it's a free game. At least that's how they advertise it. It's free. And then anything else that you want that is an add-on, quote unquote add-on, which is usually kind of essential to the game, is you have to pay for it. Pay to win is essentially the same model, but more egregious because in a game which I'll touch on more later on in the show, like NBA 2K, that is 1,000% pay to win.
So that's the difference between just pay to play and pay to win. Are either models, in your opinion, fair, Kevin? Come on, this is a toss-up question, man.
No. I think they're a little gross to me because it's like I just imagine an executive in a tie like dangling $1 from like, come on, you want to play, you want to compete, don't you? You want to be like your friends, don't you? And then I'm like, no, and they're like, just give it here, just take my money, shit.
Yeah, for real. It's free to play is definitely not a preferred model by any means, and pay to win is pretty much unplayable in my opinion. Brahman, in your opinion, what are the problems with these models? Are there any advantages to pay to play or pay to win?
No, I don't think there are any like clear advantages, except in the eyes of the game maker and just like wanting to make money that way. I think that, especially if you're putting like an initial amount into a game, to be expected to invest even more in that is really slimy, in my opinion. I think that you should sell us a complete game to start with, and pay like maybe that the pay to play, I can kind of just like, that's kind of gross. But when it comes to the pay to win, I think that's completely unacceptable. To be able to just pay for a leg up on your components is just, that's not what gaming's about. It's really just sick in my,
Yeah, it turns competitions into a capitalism contest, you know? Who can afford to win? Who can afford to play the best, and not who has any kind of talent. And I think
playing games to escape real life, not be insulted by it.
yeah. And like, I understand maybe you want to pay for like I used to play a lot of League of Legends, and I might have like paid for a couple cool skins because I didn't want to put the time in, like earning the points for it. I'm like, I want to look cool, but that doesn't affect how you play. That doesn't affect your skill level. It's just like being a little flossy.
And to be fair, there are paid to. Sorry, go ahead, Kevin.
Oh no, it's just cosmetic stuff.
Right, and I think that there are games that work entirely on free-to-play models that are they use cosmetic boosts like that sell content that is not necessarily directly related to gameplay and not necessarily related to skill set, and that separate that from the pay to play and the pay to win. And pay to play in that aspect is just paying to play as in the game stays alive. I mean, a lot of those games are games that are in beta phases that's the only way they make their money. And so it's kind of like if you support that game, you play it. I mean, Fortnite is the number one example of this, and it's one of the most successful games of all time. So we can't sit there and say completely entirely that pay to play is unadvantageous. It definitely works for some models, but how you introduce pay to play in there is very, very important in my opinion. Do you think there are games that really work well under a pay to play model, Kevin, or am I completely out of left field here?
Pay to play, there are some. I'd say games like Rainbow Six has done a pretty good job of it, where their model has kind of shifted, where it's kind of a hybrid between free to play and pay to play, where in their base game, I believe, is actually free or maybe something like $5, and then everything else. And mind you, when this game launched 5 years ago, it was a $60 game. But the way that it's set up now is there's like a base model, and then anything else that's sort of an add-on, you can either earn by playing the game and earning the currency that way, or you can just skip ahead, get rid of the grind and time that you'll need to earn that stuff and just go ahead and buy it. It's not great, but I think it's a lot better than some other games that are doing it. Fortnite games like Fortnite and Apex, I think, are great examples of sort of free to play, where the games themselves actually are free. And to me, that works. It's brilliant because I will buy skins or cosmetic stuff in a free game because I feel like I'm getting my value anyway. If I didn't pay anything to play it, I could spend $10-$20 or maybe even more as time goes on, because I'm not. And you kind of feel like
you kind of feel like you're doing something for the game too.
Right.
Like you're kind of being like, hey, I support these guys. Kind of like when you buy an artist's album, like you like their music, so you buy their actual album instead of just trying to, strip their music off of a YouTube video or something like that. You're trying to actually support them. So I think it kind of really can change the way that you look at supporting games financially, and also can just in the same way as you give your dollar, you can also take it away and show your lack of confidence in a company by especially being vocal with your dollar.
Right.
But pay to play isn't the only scam in the gaming world. Loot boxes and microtransactions have become also a common complaint amongst gamers. Why is that, Bronwyn?
I think that this is in the sense where it's like you're getting a leg up on other people just by like dropping some cash on something, or like getting better weapons, getting better like tools to be able to play a certain game, and just like I think like the little microtransactions too, those things add up. Like you might think, oh, I'm just spending a couple dollars on this, but if you keep on spending a couple dollars on that, like you're just they're just sucking money out of you at that point.
Right, especially for things that, you know, kind of, you know, one of the things I think of is easy fatalities in Mortal Kombat. That's just something that used to take skill to do, a fatality, and they're just kind of gimmicking it by allowing you to pay for it, and so that you can do it and look cool amongst your friends. Like that's something that is a microtransaction that I think really, really bothers people. I think the other thing about loot boxes though is the kind of gambling aspect of it. You know, there's especially when you get into the fact of like if you pay like $5 for a loot box and you get a randomized amount of content, and if that content actually has some kind of worth, if there's some way to trade that content, or there's some way to sell that content on eBay, however the case may be, or sell the account, then that does in essence become a form of legalized gambling in a way, doesn't it, Kevin?
Yeah, absolutely. You see this all the time where people are selling Fortnite accounts or Overwatch accounts, or even, you know, trading accounts for Madden Ultimate Team or cards for Madden Ultimate Team. And, you know, I think Hawaii was one of the states that sort of outlawed these, and a couple countries in Europe as well, that sort of outlawed these loot box systems because in a way they have been kind of predatory in a way, especially amongst younger players and younger audiences who are, you know, racking up huge credit card bills on their parents' dime. Yeah, I think it's something that really needs to sort of be examined and looked at. It's something that I think legislators have no idea what they're in. You know, they're older. They don't even understand. They still think video games are Mario and Sonic. You know, they don't understand the complexities and sort of the actual working finances and economics that go on within video games themselves. So, yeah, I absolutely think there's some sort of gambling elements to it.
Do you think, in essence, that selling loot boxes in games, especially games that are geared towards children, promotes childhood gambling?
Yeah, I mean, if it's the same system, right? Like if I can buy it and if someone else can buy it, or even a kid can buy it, it's you know, kids don't. There's a reason why you have to be of a certain age to gamble, right? So I don't understand. Even if there's like a hint of it, what do you do with that? I think the answers can kind of be obvious to some people when they start really diving and looking at this. Like, oh, you're spending money on this, and you're also losing and/or making money. Well, that's technically betting.
Yeah.
And there's
Very
a
much
sense
so.
of like that gratification too, like of the rush of doing so, that like release of serotonin, that whole like developing those habits at that age. It's just like, yeah, it can snowball into something else entirely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, with that said, we talked a lot about pay-to-play games, but also, you know, games like Fortnite and games like League of Legends are free to play. I can download them completely and with zero cost, except, you know, having a computer or having a console or something to play them on, can go through and play them. And so there's an argument that could say that those games are more accessible to gamers. Do pay-to-play games create opportunities for gamers who can't afford a full game, or do they kind of, Bronwyn, do you think that that's actually more of an opportunity than it is a risk or a detriment?
Yeah, I think that it's all about the person and how susceptible you are to advertising, to that pressure of the like shiny objects. I think it's on like a personal level, but I guess, yeah, thinking about it, I've put in a lot of time into League of Legends. I haven't put that much money into it, so I think in that sense it's good. But yeah, I think it all comes down to the person and just how aggressively they're trying to like market these different paid options. Like that's what's annoying. It's just like when you're trying to play a game, it's like, ooh, buy this, do that, like flashing screens of advertisements going on around you. It's a bit much, especially if it comes to the point of like, oh, this can help your performance. Like, who's not going to want to do that? Who's not going to want to like get the leg up on somebody, especially in these online scenarios when you might have like certain players harassing you, or you just really want to like show up yourself. I think that it creates this environment where you are going to want to spend money on it.
Yeah,
absolutely. Kev, what do you think? Is free to play games more of a benefit because of the accessibility element of it, or is it more of a detriment because of what it does to gaming overall?
It's tough, I think, yes. I think the accessibility of it in its purest sense is right in a way. Like, anyone can really play this as long as you have sort of the systems capable of like downloading and being able to play it. The other problem is when it starts to become like Brian was saying, where the way they're dressing it up or advertising it, or starts to become a cultural identity thing. Like, I remember there were stories coming out when Fortnite was at its peak of kids being bullied because they didn't have the newest skins or something like that. So that sort of kind of harassment can incentivize children to, buying things that they can't afford, or, they obviously they're kids, that they don't need or whatever, even though the game is, like you said, free to play. So I think it's touch and go on things like that. Because like you said, in its purest form, yes, anybody can play this. Buying these cosmetic items, etc., they're not necessary for the game itself. But when you start to incentivize, I think, people to, in a way where they feel like they have to, I think that can kind of be slimy. But at the same time, it's like a catch-22. It's like, well, the game is free, so how do you expect them to really make money? So I think it depends how it's handled. It's definitely a tricky situation with those games.
For sure. Some people claim, due to a lot of the transactional nature that's going on in the gaming industry now, a lot of the things we're talking about, pay to win, microtransactions, loot boxes, that we receive less content overall. We receive games that are, in essence, incomplete and then sold without DLC, that many people claim was really a part of the main game in itself, to kind of hook them into buying the DLC. Is this a fair business model, Kevin? And is this kind of still in the same category of the pay to win stuff?
This isn't necessary. Well, I think it depends on the category. Like, if it's a single player game and there's DLC and there's like continuation of a story, or they're going to go, a spin-off of a story arc that they had, I think it all depends on what the content is, right? Like, that's been an issue for years, where people are like, well, why are you selling me an incomplete game? And then others would argue that, oh no, I want more stuff because I've already beaten this game. I wanted to continue living. I want to keep playing it. So I think there's somewhat division there. I think when it becomes a problem is with games like Destiny, where the first Destiny game, a lot of people don't know this, the entire game was on the disc from the first season all the way into the last. They were just locked behind a paywall. So stuff like that, I think, is kind of it's kind of slimy and egregious, where you've already bought the entire game, but you can't access it until a year later once they release it, and you have to pay $60 again for a game that you had already paid $60 for.
Oh my God.
Bungie really sold Activision on that one.
Yeah, I remember them coming out with these big chunks of really like episodic content, and it being like a really, really big deal. Right. And I never really got far into Destiny, so I can't really talk too much about it. But
Right.
definitely interesting to hear about that.
Games like, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Mass Effect 3 and how that debacle sort of spurred content.
I heard about that one
really
too.
It just pissed more people off. Yeah, that was literally an incomplete game, and then they just released DLC that was supposed to fix the problems and questions that people had, and this left people with more questions and more problems. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I heard a lot about that. Anyways, Brahman, I'll toss the same question to you. Some people claim that the transactional nature of the gaming industry, that we get these half-baked games, and they're sold incomplete. do you think this is a fair business model for them to do? And should this still be included in the conversation when we talk about pay to play, when we talk about some of the transactional nature that happens in the gaming industry?
Yeah, so I don't think that this is a fair business model, but I do think that it happens all the time. I think that we are sold incomplete games, and they're doing it intentionally. I think if you look back, before DLCs were even really a thing or a huge thing, we were getting a lot fuller games. Like, you would never think, oh, like, I need that DLC for Mario Sunshine. It was like, no, this game just like exists, and it's like has a full game's worth of playing in it, and that's great. And I think that now that they're like, it's so not only so common that these DLCs are offered, but so many people are buying them that they're not going to turn away the chance to make extra money, even though you've already spent so much on that game. I think that it's not fair, and the games are expensive anyways. So give us a full game, and then if we want to play more, make us a new game. Exactly.
Well, that transitioned us right nicely into our top Zen, which is very cumbersomely titled "The Best and Worst Things You Can Buy in a Video Games After You've Already Bought the Game." Okay, it's a long title, but honestly, we could not think of what to really name this one. DLC, expansion packs, in-game purchases, and the endless updates are a common part of the gaming world that we live in today. Whether you hate it or love it, every modern game is always a work in progress and always an evolving game. Hell, even Pokemon falls into this format now. With that said, as some of us are painfully aware, not all content is created equal. And while some content may indeed be worth your buck, some is absolute trash. Tonight, we're going to talk about DLC, add-ons, and the ones that are worth your hard-earned dollar and the ones that aren't. So let's start with the worst. Bronwyn, we got a number 5 on this list. Number 5 on our worst DLC, worst bang for your buck. It's going to be Elder Scrolls Oblivion, the horse armor. Tell us a little bit about that.
Before I tell it to you, you must send us bits to access this information. I'm kidding, guys. We're not one of those shows. So Elder Scrolls Oblivion, Elder Scrolls Online Oblivion. Oh wait, shoot, I'm getting all scrambled. Elder Scrolls Oblivion. Horse armor is the most iconic DLC piece out there. This is where terrible DLC was born. It was released in a greater time when DLC wasn't the norm. And for those that are unaware of this DLC pack, it was essentially a piece of horse armor that can be purchased for $250. It was literally nothing other than that. It didn't provide any additional gameplay content, and looking back at it now, it's clear that Bethesda was testing the boundaries with this one.
They're just seeing what crap you'll pay $2.50 for, and there was enough people out there that paid $2.50 for horse armor. And the horse armor doesn't even really look that good. I've seen images of it, and it doesn't even look that nice, you know? Kev, what do you think about this?
Doesn't add any protection or any extra. Like, it's just horse armor.
Right?
Look, I'm all for my horse having, the dopest drip, but I mean, it's, I could have done without that.
Got to get that Clydesdale drip.
Right.
Yeah. Well, moving right along in some of our worst DLC content that you'll definitely have to waste your money on, or don't waste your money on. You shouldn't waste your money on. We talked about this a little bit earlier in the show, but number 4 is going to be Mortal Kombat with these. Mortal Kombat X was one of the most popular games in 2015, but the newest, at that time, the newest installment of the beloved fighting game was also very divisive. It had its fair share of glitches and bugs. Its multiplayer was region locked, and there was a DLC for easy fatalities. Yes, the bloody, over-the-top executions moves called fatalities perhaps the most iconic part of the Mortal Kombat series, have now become the instance of microtransactions. Easy fatalities are available in packs of 5 for $9.99 or 30 for $49.99. So basically, you can get 30 easy fatalities for $5. It gives players shortcuts to the hyper-violent moves, which in previous games were more difficult to perform by design. They were supposed to be a little bit harder to do, you know? It's kind of like a gloating move that you do when you're doing a fatality. While easier fatalities were reportedly requested by NetherRealm, while easier fatalities were reportedly requested from NetherRealm by players themselves, it's doubtful that they had microtransactions in mind to begin with. I will say that for someone who did play Mortal Kombat, especially a lot in college, this did definitely cheapen the experience for me. It's something that there's nothing like winning a match and then performing a fatality, and there's also nothing like having done that 9 times out of 10 and then miss those fatalities, and you do one of those like anticlimactic low kicks that you're always where you're like duck and
Yeah.
when you've done that like 12 times and then you finally connect a fatality, then like the night's over. Either your roommate's thrown the controller into the wall and you guys have given up for the night or whatever. Like that's where it ends. And when you put easy fatalities in there and you can just push 2 buttons and pay $5 for it, it really does cheapen that experience. So I don't know. Are you guys big Mortal Kombat fans? Brahma, did you ever play any Mortal Kombat? Have you any experience with easy fatalities?
I played a little bit. It always grossed me out. I thought I had a strong stomach for that kind of stuff. We watch really disturbing, gory movies, but that game, I don't know, it's something when it's like in your hands and you're like doing that to a character, it's just like very disturbing to me. I like power to you, like play it all you want, not my cup of tea.
What about you, Kev?
Yeah, actually, I think Mortal Kombat 10 was the last one I played. I didn't play 11, but yeah, I was kind of disappointed. I think I was even disappointed when the fatalities would happen to me, and I knew someone used the easy fatalities. It just was like, it was very anticlimactic. Like you said, you had to work for those things. Like, shit, I remember the time where you didn't even have a resource to tell you how to do them. You just had to have a friend know, or an older brother, or somebody know to teach you how to do these things. And
right
now, they're just like, push a couple buttons, there you go, and it's not worth it.
You said when someone does an easy fatality on you in Mortal Kombat, you just kind of look at him like there's some rich snob, like, oh, look, he's like,
right.
Was I worth the $5?
Exactly. I hope that was really, really worth it. Well, speaking of things that are not worth it, number 3 on our countdown, NBA 2K. You talked about this a little bit earlier, Kevin. Why don't you take this one away for us?
Yeah, so I am here to clown 2K and myself because for some reason I keep buying this shit every year. 2K, where do I begin? Well, first let's just start with the egregious microtransactions. So the game by itself is $60, okay? Everyone plays this game mostly for 2 things, the My Team and the My Player. I'll start with the My Player first, which is essentially you create your player, you go through career mode, and then you play people online. Everyone does this. They don't even really play the career mode because that sucks. The story mode is trash. They'll do something. There was one year you were a DJ, and then you decided to make the NBA. So the stories themselves are just ass. So everyone gets that just to go online and complete and just basically play virtual basketball. Especially now in these times, it's all I got, guys. I can't even go play pickup anymore. I have to literally go online and do this shit. So that being said, when you create your player, you start out at the very bottom, basically the lowest rating you can be. Now, you can work your way up to get to a competitive standpoint with everyone else. Or you can pay an additional $50 that'll get you there automatically. And then even then, you still won't necessarily be really as good as you should be, but you can kind of compete. And that's just for one player, right? So, and then there's just more microtransactions. They literally nickel and dime you every corner, from cosmetics to skill points. To God forbid you want to create another player, you're not going to spend time grinding that, so that's another $50 you're going to have to shovel out, and that's just focusing on the player. Now let's just talk about the egregious advertising sins that they do. Last year they came under fire because they literally, during a load screen, ran an ad for the show Power. During yes, if you were playing the game, they were showing you an ad that you could not skip during this game. That was one egregious sin. The other one is where a lot of people aren't keen to this, but if you call a timeout within the game, you can't skip the first 5 seconds. Why? Because the timeout is sponsored by Gatorade.
Oh, wow. They just
right,
really sprinkled capitalism in there all over the place.
Let's see. The community lobby, we've all played Destiny here, right? So their version of that is the tower. Their version of that's called the neighborhood, in which itself is just this giant neighborhood, which you guessed it is filled with billboards and stores that are, sponsored. There used to be a Foot Locker store. I think there was a Jordan brand area. Under Armour was in there. Gatorade's all over the place. And how it works, if you want to get to point A and point B, it takes forever. You run there, but it takes a fucking long ass time. And as you're running there, you're seeing a billboard for Gatorade, a Foot Locker ad, or something else. Now, you can get through and traverse through the neighborhood faster if you go ahead and spend $30 to buy an in-game bicycle.
Wow. You have to literally buy a bicycle.
Not even a car, a bicycle.
Right. If you mind me just connecting the threads of yarn here on my next conspiracy theory, here comes the most egregious part, is the multiple patches that they threw ambiguously throughout the game, and they don't tell you exactly what's on the patch notes. They'll give you some broad detail, and then they'll say, and many, many more updates, but they don't tell you what those updates are. It literally says that within their patch notes. So what I believe happens, because this happens every time I play this game, I'll make a player, and because I don't have the time to grind this player, I'll end up spending $50 to get him to where he needs to be so I can be competitive. And then that player will be next to useless because of some fucking patch they did that makes my player's skill set or skill base completely irrelevant now. And they do this constantly. Oh, and one other thing. Last year, when they were promoting the pre-orders for 2K21 in 2K20, the first thing you saw was a pop-up menu on that you could pre-order the special edition for $100. Now, here's the UX sin of this one. The UX and UI sin, if you will. At the bottom, it had a button that said push A to purchase, but didn't tell you to push B. You just had to kind of guess that on your own. So, along with, of course,
they're real sneaky, man.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess when you come with a game that, like Madden, where they literally sell you a new one every year and it could have been an update. Like they're just really stretching the capacity of what they can get away with, in my opinion.
So if you're wondering how it got, I can tell you. So back when these games came out, it's the 90s and 2000s. As you know, players and transactions happened, and there's certain players who either aren't in the league anymore or aren't in their respective teams at that time. So what do? Next year, you roll out a new game to put that stuff on. And then comes the internet, a great and fascinating tool which delivers content and information at just basically snap of a finger, in which they do that. Except, however, they seem to think that people forgot that they can do that shit. And they're just like, well, everyone's accepted the fact that we release this game every year, so we're going to keep fucking doing it. And unfortunately, the only way to reverse this, folks, is if you stop buying this damn game every year, so that way they can make it free to play. And then the content or the money that you do shovel out is just pay to play. At least we can get it there. At this point, I don't know what the fuck to call this. It's not pay to play. It's not pay to win. It's just
paying.
Just paying.
Just paying. Yeah.
Hey. Yeah, Madden, my team, is very egregious in this line, and it's, I'm sorry, not my team, Madden Ultimate Team. My team is NBA's version, but basically what it is, it's a loot box system in which you get players that are basically kind of like basketball or football cards, but you get these players at different at different overalls or at different ratings or whatever. And again, these actually have in-game value that are worth real dollars. Like, you can go on eBay and buy Madden Ultimate Team MUT packs on eBay for like $300, or there's people selling 2K accounts for $350. It's a fucking mess.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That sounds like a fucking mess, man.
Yeah. So we actually have a group chat where all my friends who play 2K, and it's just the clown emoji, because at this point, it's sorry. basically what we are. We do this. We're in this toxic relationship every year with these fuckers. So
Look into the eyes of capitalism, and you bought something, Morty. All right, number 2 on our countdown, and there's a gregarious reason why this one makes number 2 on our countdown, because it pretty much only exists as DLC, which is everything that is released for The Sims. Talk to us a little bit about what's going on with The Sims, Bronwyn.
Yeah, well, the Sims franchise is an important part of video game history. The original game brought some groundbreaking improvements to the world of video games. It essentially gave birth to a whole new genre of games. The latest games from the Sims franchise, however, they're still great, but the amount of DLC content that has been released is just ridiculous at this point. These days, The Sims isn't even available to buy as a full game. It's essentially a library of DLC packs that you can purchase to get access to different components of the game. Buying all of these components will set you back a lot of money, from clothing to furniture to even things you can do, ways you can interact with the game. They're all marketed with these like grand like schemes of like, oh, like you want to experience holidays in this universe, have a whole expansion for like $40 where like you can feel holidays. Or, oh, you want to be on the beach, that's cool, well, let's pay $40 extra just for the Sims Island expansion so you can be on the beach and go scuba diving. And now they have a new Star Wars expansion coming out, which will probably be another crazy amount of money. Oh, and let's say you're really interested in playing this Star Wars version of The Sims and that's all you care about. Too bad. You have to buy the game, and it's in like the Sims game first. You can't just buy that expansion. You need to have the game already to be able to play this expansion for the game. So it's just a whole rabbit hole to go down of money that I have spent in my past.
A game made pretty much entirely of DLC at this point.
Yeah.
That's definitely a headache. But somewhere, someone is making a ton of money with that idea. I think that it's probably a brilliant marketing strategy to turn Sims into entirely all DLC. What do you think about this, Kevin?
Yeah, well, I don't know if you guys noticed, but this is another EA title, so I'm not surprised that. You guys remember when 2010 and there was the big BP oil spill, and somehow EA still was voted the worst company in the world?
This is why.
I mean, there's 2 things wrong with that. I'm not going to get in too far into it, but still, it says a lot.
That's true.
They're known for devouring games and just ruining them.
Brahman?
Oh, my thought left my head.
Well, before the thought comes back, let's continue down our front of EA with number 1 in this countdown, which is probably EA's biggest bomb. I mean, if you haven't noticed, the top 3 in this countdown are EA, so there's a trend here, EA. Get your shit together. Star Wars Battlefront 2 and the loot boxes. Not long ago in this galaxy, a greedy capitalist mouse with ears decided that it could do Star Wars better than George Lucas. And it resulted in the most downvoted comment in all of Reddit history. Players were furious that the game had let people pay real money to access enhancements for major characters that would otherwise take dozens of hours, about 40 plus hours, to unlock by playing the game. It is pay to win in the most pay to win sense, and not just pay to win, but pay to access iconic characters like Darth Vader, who were locked behind a paywall. And the game suffered significantly in sales because of this. I remember this controversy distinctly, and I actually boycotted the game because of this. And watching EA admit that they got it wrong, and at least say that they're going to refrain from using similar pay styles in the future, I think was worth passing on this game. Would you agree, Kevin?
Oh, absolutely. Matter of fact, it was so worth it, Dodd, that I think about a year or 2 ago, you want to know how much I bought this game for in its full entirety with the DLC that they were trying to sell people? $6.
Oh, wow. Wow.
It's a great game, by the way. Like, if you haven't played Battlefront 2 now, It's pretty fucking fun. But yeah, I was
for $6, I might play that.
Redeemed. Yeah. Yeah, if you got $6 to spend, you can go ahead and throw it on Battlefront too. It's definitely worth it. You get all that stuff that they were trying to hide behind loot boxes too, so that was kind of nice.
Yeah. Ron, did you ever get a chance to play
Yeah.
any Battlefront 2?
I did not know.
It was well. I think that you missed out on something that would probably have frustrated you financially. So I think that your wallet appreciates your lack of interest in this one. But we can't end on such a sour note. We've got to talk about some of the best DLC bangs for your buck. We've got to talk about some that actually did deliver. And number 5 on our countdown. Ooh, excuse me, guys. Definitely delivered some yeehaws, that's for sure. Number 5 on our countdown is Red Dead Redemption: The Undead Nightmare. Kev, why does Red Dead Redemption: The Undead Nightmare come in at number 5 in this countdown?
Oh, Undead Nightmare, that sounds like a cash out on paper. Take a unique, stellar game and then litter it with zombies. This DLC, of course, was also released at a time when the film, book, and video game industries were oversaturated with the undead, a little 2009 and 2010. However, it was absolutely amazing, not taking itself too seriously and indulging in the humor of the situation. The enemy variety was fantastic, the world was a joy to explore all over again, and the story and characters were interesting. Undead Nightmare is simply a joy, adding humor to a game that, although it had its funny moments, was a largely serious affair. Had a decent length, meaning you could spend around a dozen hours playing the DLC. Although there were no new environments to explore, the change in aesthetics made the world feel new. It helped that there were additional tasks to accomplish in the world, such as taming 4 horses of the apocalypse. If you had tamed all 4, you could eventually tame a unicorn, and that's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
That's
4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse is badass. Red Dead Redemption. Obviously, this is not the DLC for any of the new PS4 Red Dead Redemption. We're talking about the ones for PS3.
Xbox. Red Dead Redemption. The one that came out on the 360 and PS3. Yeah.
Right. And so, again, with that said, we're talking about a smaller DLC scale. Anything that was on the PS3 and 360 was going to be a smaller DLC. And for that, completely rewriting the game was a huge deal for it and created this very big nostalgic effect so that when Red Dead Redemption came back out and re-released, it had this huge audience. Did you ever get to yeehaw in Red Dead Redemption, Bronwyn?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Both this and the second game. Oh, I love it. I love feeling like an outlaw cowboy. It's great.
Yeah. You ever get to play the undead version?
No, I have not.
Yeah.
That's a version I hope that they really bring back in the new game, and then I think I'll definitely jump into it. I haven't gotten a chance to play it, and Red Dead is one of the games that I said that when it came back out, like when they did a remixed version of it, I was going to try it, and I haven't gotten a chance to do it yet, so I don't know. Maybe one day you might see me, saddling up on stream.
Oh, for sure.
For sure.
Number 4 in this countdown is not the last in this countdown, but number 4 in this countdown is The Last of Us Left Behind. Last of Us Left Behind, and Brahman, you got more on this story. Tell us a little bit why Last of Us Left Behind gets so much credit for one of the best DLCs.
Yeah, well, Left Behind is an expansion that functions as a prequel of sorts. It covers what Ellie's life was like before the events of The Last of Us. It isn't very long, only takes a few hours to complete, but it's powerful, much like the main game. Since you play as Ellie before the events of the main game, there's a lot less combat. Instead, the bulk of the content is plot, puzzles, and stealth. It's all executed perfectly, though, just as you might expect from a game of that caliber. Instead of giving us new content like other DLCs on this list, Left Behind succeeds because it takes a character we love and fleshes them out in a really effective way, giving us new environments, new characters, and new combat/stealth scenarios allows us to learn more about Ellie in a new and interesting way. In other words, Left Behind focuses on an old character, but allows us to explore her personality through new environments and mechanics, avoiding the trap that many DLCs fall in, which is retreating treating familiar territory. Retreading. That was a doozy.
There we go.
Of a sentence. Retreading, retreating into old habits. Yeah.
Retreading familiar territory. For this tripped me up reading this at first because I thought that we were talking about The Last of Us Part 2. And Last of Us Part 2 was very, very critically reviewed, and a lot of people didn't like it. But I do remember that one of the reasons why was because of so much that was fleshed out in Last of Us Left Behind about Ellie's character. And how this DLC did impact the trajectory of Last of Us and put it into that spot where it ended up being such a disappointment for a sequel because it had so much riding on it. So I think that's really interesting to see Last of Us Left Behind make it to this list. Have you got any chance to play Last of Us, Kev?
No, I haven't. I've always a game that I sort of regret not getting into, but I've definitely followed it a little bit. And like you said, The Last of Us 2 apparently was pretty divisive as far as the review and the game stuff. I haven't played either of them, and I haven't played the first one either. But it's definitely something. It's definitely on my list of regrets or need to play ASAP. What are you doing? Kind of games.
Yeah, it definitely righted the zombie trend that was going on in that 2009, 2010 era. But moving right along in our countdown, number 3 in our countdown is one of my personal favorites, the Batman Arkham series. Now, the Batman Arkham series has constantly delivered DLC right. Arkham City and Arkham Knight really, really did great with DLC that really expanded on what already felt like a complete game. And I can say this because I have 100%ed both Arkham City and Arkham Knight. Okay? I played through all of those games. Both games did feel like a complete game all on their own, and the DLCs just expanded onto that. For Arkham City, that means including characters like Nightwing, even including a storyline that expanded on the game's storyline, included a different character so that you're still kind of playing around with new territory, right? Really did, I felt added on to the content. I really loved playing as Nightwing. I loved playing as Robin. And both of those DLC content were under $10. Arkham Knight, on the other hand, expanded on everything from skins to different Batmobiles to different story missions, as well as extra characters like Batgirl, Red Hood, and even Azrael. Even the DLC felt well worth my money, and that may be just because I'm a DC fanboy, but I was left satisfied every single time. Because of this, I can't wait for Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League. Any of you guys big fans of the Arkham games? Did you guys get a chance to play any of them?
Definitely. Oh my gosh, I loved Arkham Asylum so much. Just
Yeah. Any of you guys indulge in any of the DLC for any of these series?
Yes, I played. I don't think I got into the Arkham Knight DLC, but I for sure played the Arkham City DLC. Like Brian said, it's probably one of my favorite game series. Arkham Asylum was great, and then the DLC. The DLC, again, this is how you do DLC, right, folks? You give the people a complete game, and then you're like, okay, now we have something where we can literally add some things on, more so at a request for. They usually do it to kind of appease fans, and and Rocksteady goes about this the right way majority of the time.
Agreed. Completely agree. All right, well, moving right along in our countdown, number 2 in our countdown, The Witcher Blood and Wine. Kev, tell us why The Witcher Blood and Wine is third in our countdown.
Yeah. Absolutely. Blood and Wine is expansion for The Witcher 3 that takes place in the land of Toussaint. Toussaint is a gorgeous area with bright colors, reminding the player of fairy tales. Almost all the characters are completely new, just like the environment, and there are new enemies and monsters to fight. The quality of the expansion is consistent with the main game, which means it's also incredible. In fact, the DLC won many awards despite just being an expansion. Blood and Wine is more like an actual game than an expansion, surprise, surprise, considering how giant that game was. Its main story can take over a dozen hours to complete. If you choose to do all the side quests and explore the world, you definitely should. The expansion can take over 30 hours to complete. Also, it doesn't rely on old characters to carry its plot or reuse the same environments. Instead, everything is new, actually adding something to novel the game. However, the content within the Blood and Wine DLC isn't essential or even important to your appreciation or enjoyment of the main story or its conclusion. You can experience The Witcher 3 to its fullest without running into a paywall, which means that Blood and Wine is simply a fantastic expansion of the incredible world of The Witcher.
Yeah,
You got any chance to check this out?
I did not get a chance to check out The Witcher. I haven't gotten to play many of the Witcher games. I think that my biggest tell out of the Witcher series, my biggest coin that I've tossed to my Witcher, if you will, has been from the TV series.
Yeah, me too. If there was a DLC for more episodes of that, I'd be paying.
But I do know.
Actually got me to play.
Do it?
That actually inspired me to play The Witcher after I watched the show.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Did you ever get a chance to try out?
Yeah.
Did you get a chance to try out some of this DLC by any chance?
Yeah, I did. It after the grueling time I spent. I mean, I wouldn't say it was grueling. It's actually great. It's just the game is overwhelmingly massive. I will say that.
Well, sounds like a lot of fun, and comes in at number 2 in our countdown. But nothing can top number 1 in our countdown, and there's nobody that can talk about the number 1 in our countdown other than our Bronwyn. So, Bronwyn, why don't you go ahead and give it away? What makes number 1 in our countdown?
Breath of the Wild, because Nintendo always does it best. The DLC pack is well worth the extra $20. This purchase gets you not 1, but 2 DLCs to give you even more of what you love from Breath of the Wild. As part of the first DLC, Master Trials, you'll be able to embark on the Trial of the Sword, throwing you into a chaotic scavenger hunt for your lost items as you rebuild your weapons and armor arsenal and strategically take down enemies along the way. Besides the epic gameplay opportunity that this provides, an additional perk of this DLC is the weapons upgrades you get along the way. Each trial permanently increases the damage of your Master Sword by 10 points, and by the final trial, your sword is glowing and is increased in dexterity. Another feature accessible with this expansion is Master Mode. Much like God Mode and God of War, Master Mode increases the difficulty of the game, has your enemies respawning quicker and rebuilding their health as opposed to just dying, so it just turns the environment into a total bloodbath that you're able to challenge yourself with. Then there's a hero's path, which lets you view the map, a view on the map everywhere you've ever gone before. So you'll be able to easily tell what are unexplored areas, and it'll keep record of up to 200 hours of gameplay of where you've been and what you're doing, and even keeps track of where you've been killed. The travel medallion that's part of this DLC allows you to put a fast travel point on anywhere you'd like in the map. There's also a ton of new armors that can be found scattered around the map in various chests. These include Korok Mask, Majora's Mask, Midna's Helmet, Phantom Armor, and the hilarious Tingles armor. So that's fun. It makes the cutscenes quite exciting after that. And that's just half of it. That's just the first DLC you get. The second half, the Champion's Ballad, is more story focused and chocked full of fun gameplay. There's new shrines to access. There's compelling boss battles, weapons, and armors galore. So I would say these DLCs are not only worth it, but they just add so much to the original game.
Yeah, this is a DLC that I played through a lot, mostly because I played through Breath of the Wild and I put a solid 40 hours into it, and I wanted to put about 40 more into it. And it really did. I really say that this is a kind of pinnacle of expanding on the gameplay. Now, is there some of it that's derivative? Sure. You were going back to some of the same shrines at some spots, and sometimes the same dungeons, and sometimes playing some of the same bosses again. but you were doing them in a challenge mode. You had certain weapons you had to be able to use, certain armor that you had to use for it, and a certain amount of health, certain amount of endurance that you had for it. And so you really had to put your skills to the test with it, especially with the Champions Ballad as well, which is a real test of skill. I still haven't been able to complete the Champions Ballad on my own yet. And so now there is still content that if I wanted to play Breath of the Wild, I can go back and work on something. Like there's something I can still go back and play if I want to. So I definitely feel like it expanded the content that's already there. And that's why there's still people playing Breath of the Wild to this day. Kev, did you ever get a chance to experience the glory that is Breath of the Wild, or is it just us fanboying out over here, fangirling and fanboying out over here?
So I have an embarrassing confession. I have not, and I am now paying for those sins as I can not buy a Nintendo Switch anywhere now. So, no, I've heard nothing but great things about it, as the case with every Nintendo IP for the most part. So I don't know what I've been thinking. But yeah, no, it's something that it's on my list that I really need to pick up.
Definitely need to check out Breath of the Wild. There's hands down a reason why it makes number one in our countdown. But yeah. Anyways, I think that's going to do it for us today, guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another fantastic episode of Geek Life Live. We've enjoyed having you guys. Do we have any new followers? I think no. I think Blair Lake is our only new follower. We had a bunch of new subscriptions from earlier today, thanks to a very handsome, mysterious donor. So thank you guys for those new subscriptions. Anything cool we want to talk about in chat? We had some really good conversations going on earlier about pay to play. Brom, do you have anything you wanted to call out in particular?
No, just learned a nice little cheat code for The Sims, which was nice. Thanks to littlest Nelly. Just talking a little bit about that. Yeah, everyone's sharing sort of stories on paying to play and that kind of stuff. And
yeah,
it's been allowed in the chat.
Saint Sinner has said, in regards to characters locked behind paywalls, the intent is to provide players with a sense of pride and accomplishment for unlocking these different heroes. I think that's hard to do when you lock them behind paywalls. But I think that was the point of Saint Sinner's comment there.
It's a quote from EA.
Yeah, that's a quote. Yeah. Sad Gaming says Player Unknown on mobile makes about 40 times as much than the console version, which I think the Player Underground on mobile is like the free-to-play model, I believe. So that's an interesting comment there. Let's see. Got to give DLC credit. Bestsellers on Amazon under video games are always gift cards for video games. Yep, that's DLC works in that way. A lot of love for the Arkham series, and that was the most downvoted comment ever. That was the one that was the most down. That's what Saint Sinner was referring to. Thank you, Saint Sinner, for the compliments on yet another great show. And I think that'll wrap it up for us, guys. If you guys like what you see or hear, be sure to follow us on YouTube, follow us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, all the good stuff. You can always follow us here. You can always subscribe to us here, so you don't have to pay for watch those ads. That's another good spot. If also, we have our own personal social medias. I tweet and I Twitch a lot. You can find both my Twitter and Twitch at Rusebane, WRUSE_BANE. Brahman, where can they find you?
You can find me at Space Nymph on Twitch and Instagram.
And Kev, where can they find you?
Yeah, it's Toddly Awesome on Twitch and Xbox, and then Kevin Todd Jr. on all my other socials.
All right. And that'll do it for us. Big shout out to our moderator, Bronwyn, as well as Littlest Nelly, our video producer, Cape, Jake from behind the scenes. He's still here. We haven't chased him off yet. He's still coming back. He's just hiding from us this week, but should be back in the next coming weeks. We're going to be taking a couple or a break at least next week, possibly the week after that. We got to get caught up on cataloging some content, but once we do, we're going to come back with the rest of season 1 for you guys. So stay tuned with that. Also, we're always looking for help and feedback. If you have any feedback, email us at hello@geeklife.live. I think that's all the social promos that I can think of. You guys have anything else? Did I miss anything? We good?
We're good.
Okay. All right. We'll be back same time, same place next week for more of the nerdy news you need to know. Until then, peace.